Are you ready to set up your first 20-gallon aquarium? If you're a beginner, or maybe you're just looking for a step-by-step guide on setting up your first thriving aquarium, today we're going to jump right in and explain from the start what equipment to buy all the way to the end on what plants and fish to pick out for our aquarium. So today, let's hop on in and show you how I did this process with a step-by-step guide of creating a thriving aquarium for your house. Mine is in my studio. So let's go through and do this. Alrighty, so where do you start out? First, you need an aquarium, so you need your tank. The tank that I picked out is from UNS, so I love their rimless tanks. They're just a little bit more expensive. You can go to your local pet store and get a non-rimless tank that are probably about half the cost. So mine are just an aesthetic. From there, you're gonna pick the size that you want. 20 gallon is what I'm gonna be scaping today and what we're gonna be going through with a step-by-step guide. And then you need to figure out filtration. So do you want a hang on back? Feel free to check out up here in the top right, or left, I don't know how this looks when we're going through and editing it, but go through and look at my filter video that I published about what filters to pick out. I did a canister filter. So first and foremost, the 207 from Fluval is what I did. So tank size, filtration. Next step is lighting. So depending on the type of lighting that you want, I also did a lighting video that you can check out for the type of lighting that you want to have in your aquarium. So depending on the plants, do you want them to pop? Are there a lot of reds? Just comes down to that. Or maybe you're trying to save from a cost perspective, right? You're new to the hobby. You want to be more cost conscientious. And that's what I did for this, this tank size, because it's a long tank. They're expensive when you get in the width size that I did for this aquarium. So it's not as tall. This one is the one that I'm scaping right now. If you wanted to get the same type, is the 90L from UNS. I actually wrote this down. So you'll have a to-boo list. It is Halloween. I'll be posting this, so you'll see it right here pop up. But basically the UNS, it's the 90L. It's 21.3 gallons. It is 35 wide and some change by 11, I would say 12 inches high, and depth is 12 inches as well. And then for you all not in the US, it is 90 by 30 by 30 centimeters. The hardscape that we're going to be using for this, so the next thing you would want to do after you get your lighting, you've gotten your tank, you've gotten your filtration. Now, what do you want to put in it? So the hardscape that I'm using for this one that you'll see, and you don't see it right now because I painted it, but we're going to flip it around, is elephant stone. So I went through and purchased some elephant stone. That's going to be in here. And then also wood. So depending on what you want to put in your tank, what type of scape you want to do, I like to make it look more natural. So I have wood, and the wood that I'm using in this tank is going to be ghost wood. Next thing is substrate. So substrate, you definitely want to pick out what type of substrate you want. I love the UNS Bora sand. I was going to do a darker sand, but the elephant stone is light. So I got a lighter sand. So the UNS Bora sand, make sure you wash it. We'll go outside and wash that as well and kind of show you that process. Also, you need a nutrient dense substrate. So if you're going to have plants, right, you're starting out, you have your to-do list, you got your tank, you got your filtration, you got your light, and then you also got your hardscape. Now we want plants. The best thing about plants, and the reason why you want to have live plants in your aquarium, is it helps create a self-sustaining tank with less maintenance on your end. So highly recommend getting live plants. And I'll tell you every single one that I used in this build as well, kind of list by list as we're going through and planting them. But you need live plants. Not that you need them, you want them, definitely. Basically what happens is it helps take out nutrients from your tank from the breakdown of your waste from fish or shrimp, which I'll be adding in here as well, right? So that is just helping build that ecosystem, creating a self-sustaining aquarium. But you need a nutrient-dense substrate. So if you have stem plants, because there are stem plants which add a lot of volume to your tank, there's epiphytes which feed off of just nutrients from the water column. But stem plants root down into the substrate, and you need a nutrient-dense substrate for them to pull nutrients from there, but they also feed off of nutrients from the water column too, right? Pulling that, creating that cycle that you have in your aquarium as you're just starting out. This is just going to help you excel quicker and create a better self-sustaining aquarium. So that's a nutrient-dense substrate. I use the Aquascape pond soil potting soil. Aquascape pond potting media. So you'll see that in description as well. You can order all of this on Amazon, even the aquarium itself. It'll all be right there, except for the Hardscape. Boost plants, not sponsored by anyone in this video. This is all just for me being a consumer. And you'll see a link down below as well as we go through and talk about plants, but you can get the Hardscape from them too. So that's the full list of your to-do list of when you're going through and wanting to start out. Again, rimless tanks are more expensive. I painted this background. So most folks paint it black. I have this one right here as black. I didn't really like the lighting with the black tone. My 20-gallon tank that most of my videos are from, my other one that's to the right here, the wall behind it is blue. And I love the contrast and the absorption of the light, and it doesn't go through in terms of creating that like ghosted area. So that's what I did here. So this is actually not black, it is a blue. I have the paint here if you all want to match, because I ended up painting it. Oh, I can't see the list. All right, you'll see the name of the blue that I used in the description as well, but it's a latex paint. So that's what you can do is you can get a latex paint and just paint it over. Once you flip this around, you'll see it, but you'll see the full scape probably cutting through here as completion. But that's your to-do list. So that's what you need to go through and start out with. Pick your tank out. Then your filtration that you're going to use. So you need the proper filtration, and I go through that in a video. And then you need your light as well. From there, you can go and pick out your hardscape now. You know the size of the tank that you want, and now you can start picking out hardscape that fits in with that tank. And then from there, substrate. I typically do the substrate after the hardscape because your substrate would want to be in the same colorization of that tone of hardscape. That way it looks more natural. Now, if you don't want it to, or don't care about being so natural, fine, then you don't need to, right? You can pick out your substrate whenever. And then from there, you're gonna pick out your plants. So we'll go through and talk about what plants I picked out for specific areas and how to plant those plants and what benefit those do and add into your aquarium as well. The fluval filter, some of you have asked, and if you're tuning in and you're rewatching this, how did I get clear tubing for the fluval filter? Because they come with the black and terrible return. So I have lily pipes, and we'll go step-by-step guide too. So this is your first step-by-step guide on going through and building this 20-gallon aquarium. But enough of me talking, let's hop on in and get into building this tank. All right, so flipped it around. You can see the pre-scape here. Highly recommend, if you're just starting out, definitely doing a pre-scape. Just watch out when you're adding things, do not scrape the glass. I highly recommend doing a pre-scape. So go and purchase your hardscape, test it out, see if it fits. If you're at the aquarium store and you're getting a tank from there, some of them have lids, pop off that lid and lay out some hardscape while you're there. Some of us may not have that mindset yet of being able to just know how everything's gonna fit. And I do sometimes for my nano tanks, but not my larger tanks. I only have two. I've only skipped one large 20-gallon tank. This is my second 20-gallon tank. So I couldn't think, how is the space gonna fit? How are things gonna work? So always highly recommend doing a pre-scape. That way you can figure out what and how things are gonna fit and get that creative mind out on that canvas for your aquarium. So I just wanted to show you all this before I break it out and take off the plastic wrap, that pre-scape thought of going through and just seeing how things fit in the aquarium. It's not bad to have a pre-scape. Some people are very experienced and can just do it right off the whim. Highly recommend planning that out. So that's what I did. I went through and added all of my hardscape, make sure everything fits. Now it's not gonna be one-to-one going back in. Sometimes it never really is unless you label it. It may be for you, take a picture. I'm not gonna look back at my photos as we're going through and scaping this, but enough about that. Let's go through and just start to break out, take all this out. That way I can bring off the plastic wrap. and do that step-by-step guide for you all, but just wanted to show you that pre-scape kind of thought process. So definitely first you went out, we just talked about what you need to get. Now pre-scape your layout, and then we'll talk about what to do after that. But let's go through and break this out. All right, so now we're gonna break this out. I need to take out the plastic wrap. I got the lily pipes ready because I wanted to see how they fit. It's not as tall as a tank, so these are shorter ones. You'll see them in the description. But let's go through and take out all this hardscape and then start talking about the next step. All right, so we took it all apart. I'm gonna turn this light off for this aquarium here. You can kind of see it in the glass. And then it's always fun to scape with a light on. So I'll go through and place the light. We'll unpack that together. These labels are really nice. They're easy to peel. Good job, UNS. But again, 90L. If you want to see that dimension here, is what I ended up getting. All right, so here's the light. Let's go through and open this. So I just found out that the dimmer that you can buy for the Twin Star line doesn't work for some reason with this brand of light. I'll have to do some research. It's kind of frustrating. So that means to me that Chihiros is the infinite brand. Like, how do you have an expensive light like this that doesn't allow for your timer to work? Oh well, enough about complaining. I'll probably upgrade to the Chihiros. It is more expensive, but we'll end up doing that just for this build. But all right, so let's hop on in and talk about what we need to add now. So typically the base, I don't like to have my hardscape immediately touching the base. So what we're gonna do is do a nutrient dense substrate. Then what we'll do is add our capping layer, some of our capping layer, because what will happen is we don't want it to add too much capping layer to this when we're going to add the hardscape, because you don't want the hardscape to just be completely exposed. You want it to be somewhat covered with the substrate, but we want our nutrient dense substrate in the back. When I had it pre-scaped, I'll have valleys. So I'll just need to be aware of packing higher substrate from a nutrient dense substrate in those areas with a smaller in the back. So you gotta think about field of view too. You can make this tank seem deeper and further back if you scape up. So think of it going up that way towards the back versus it just being a neutral area. So it seems as if it's further back than it is by field of view depth. So when you're scaping your tank, just remember that. This blue, by the way, way better, I feel, than black. So definitely you'll see that in the comments. I'm really, really happy that I did the blue on this type of lighting versus black, in my opinion. Again, you can all pick. It's all up to you. This is your build. but that is the background. But let's go through and add our nutrient dense substrate. All right, everyone, so we're back. This is, well, we're outside. We already talked. But basically what we're gonna be doing out here is I already rinsed the UNS soil, so it's the Bora sand that we're gonna be using as the substrate capping layer. Be aware, wash it. If you get anything from UNS that is the sand, you need to wash it. You don't want a cloudy tank when you're filling it up with water. So just be aware of that. What I'm gonna be doing right now is I'm gonna be going through and sifting out the nutrient dense substrate. So I like to use this from Aquascape pond potting mix. It just comes with large debris in it, so I like to sift it out. And then I'm gonna also add some crushed lava stone into it. I found that the issue that I've had in the past with the substrate, and you can watch my substrate video, but add lava stone, little tip, is that when the roots go down into the substrate, it doesn't spread out and hold on to things. So I have rabbit snails and they like to dig around those areas, and it lifts a lot of the stem plants out. So lava stone will give the plant something to hold on to, the roots, so they don't pull out as easy. I did it actually in my nano tank and it worked out really well. So that's what I'm gonna be adding, but sift this out. So I just have a sifter. My wife actually got mad at me because she's been missing these. So if you or all have and use these for baking, probably get a second pair. But that's that. We're gonna go through and sift this, and then I'll also give you Ellie a little shout out, because some of you have been asking about Ellie. She's actually right here, but she can't come on the grass side. In Arizona, we do overseeding, and when we overseed, you don't let animals on it yet, as it starts to root down for the grass. So just finished that. That's why she's not over here. She's a little upset. She's a little pouty, but here she is. Here's a little update on how Ellie's doing. Hey, Ellie, you wanna come say hi? She's just a little upset that she can't come over here. So anyways, let's go through, sift this, get this all ready. I'll show you when I add the lava stone kind of how I mix it up. It's not super science behind it, but we'll go through and do that. So that's what I'm doing outside. And then we'll go right back into the studio and start this build. Hopefully you're all as excited as I am, but further ado, let's get to it. All right, so just got back from outside. You all would have just seen me mix this together and said hi to Ellie. This is what I'm gonna be adding as my nutrient dense substrate. If you remember, I mixed it. So we'll go through, and I need to go slow because there is gonna be debris. But I'll add higher in this area, here, and here, because it's gonna be 3 points, 1, 2, 3. Valleys as we go through. All right, so this is good. I'm actually not going to cap it. I'm going to get some of the hardscape in for the wood. That way I can elevate it, and then I'll start scaping around it. I just need to be aware. Basically, I don't remember where this centerpiece is, where I'm going to do things. So get some of the wood in with its balancing, and then we'll go from there. So next up, placing the base that I had for this hardscape. basically right now I'm wondering how much light is this back going to get? And when I get the Chihiros, since I'm going to switch the light, it'll be wider. So it'll probably get more light in the back because I'm going to have reds back here, and that's going to require high lighting. So this is a little bit different of a scape when you have this top member coming down and the amount of light in different areas. So I'm just trying to see how far do I want it to rotate, because it may not capture the amount of light back here, right? So more light so that this back row gets enough lighting. We'll have epiphytes here that don't require higher lighting. I think that's perfect. So basically, this needs to be glued. So what I'm going to go through and do is glue this down as well. So you definitely want to glue things like wood. This wasn't soaked, this wood, so it will float as it's starting to become waterlogged. Before it waterlogs, it will float. So we got to glue this down, and also needs to stay. See, it's going to be swinging. So let's go through and glue this in the spot that it needs to be in. All right, so super exciting. I just can't believe this is finally happening. For those of us that didn't know, I've been waiting for this tank for a while to be built, but I need to glue this down here. I worked out the space to make sure there's enough light in the area where I'm gonna have plants. So just the wood orientation was important because of the lighting orientation. So what we'll go through and do is we're gonna glue here. I elevated this side a little bit with a rock. I don't know if we'll keep that rock there. Yeah, we'll probably glue it to there. The issue is I found out in my other tank when I elevated with a rock, there's not planting room around that area, but we'll see what we're gonna do with the scape here. So I'll wait to glue that, but we'll definitely come in here and glue this side. Now, those of us that don't know, there are two different types of glue. There is the gel glue, like flourish glue for plants. Now, this is great for plants, but not for gluing. I guess you can't really, kind of hard to see this title. There you go. Not good for gluing your hardscape. There's different types of glue that have additive into it, like this Flora scaping glue, and you'll see it start to smoke because it'll do a quick dry. And what you do, for all the beginners out there, is you get some paper towel, crumple it up, stick it in there, and you pour the glue on it. It activates and it will start to smoke. Do not inhale the smoke that comes out from it. And this will harden like a rock. So I need to go in here and place some of this in, and then we're gonna glue it down with our additive glue. So let's go through and do that. All right, so that's the first part done. Now I'm gonna start adding some more hardscape. Now that that part's glued, scaping out this area here. Now I like the placement of this. Well, let's drag this back out. So I like the placement of this rock, but what I'm gonna do is I want the backside to be tilted up a little bit. So we'll just be aware of that as I'm kind of going through. So we're getting 3 spaces. Let's go to ultra wide. Hold on. All right. So basically what we're gonna have, get this a little straight. Basically what we're gonna have is 1, 2, 3. We'll make this a little bit in. And then we'll have that one this one come in here, but go over to the right. Basically we're gonna have then a shelf here for deep reds to come up. So it's looking good. I'll have an accent piece of wood here. Perfect. So this just needs to come up, elevated back. That way there's going to be some red room back here. I'll just show you. Essentially that back area back here will be where some reds can grow out. Little valley here and crest into there. So perfect. So let's keep scaping. All right, so I went outside and was breaking this back long one so I get more room, because I'm gonna have stem plants coming out the back here, and it ended up just breaking the whole thing, but it kind of created a nice little cove here, so I'm happy about that. The light will be like that, so there'll still be enough room. So perfect, it's coming out great so far. I'm just gonna keep plugging along here. I think we're pretty good in this zone. I don't know if I want the back higher or not. I'm trying to think, like, do I need to elevate it more, lay some capping sand down, and then lay these ones down? Hard thoughts here. That's probably what I'll do. All right, so moving on to the next zone. So we have 3 zones. There'll be one more in this corner over here. So let's start scaping that one. Perfect. So as we bring this out, you'll see there's 1, 2, 3 zones, stem plants. I'll have that peace lily coming out here. So as you're going through and thinking about it, where are you going to place your plants while placing your hardscape so that you have enough room for stem plants in the back and then enough front ground for whatever you're going to place in here. And I actually might move this up more to give me more planting space, because if you see, that's really small. So I'll probably expand it this side to the front more, expand this side to the front more, to take up more of this dead space. So let's go through and do that. I think that's perfect. So you got the trailing area into here, where it'll be lower, higher back here, and then moving on back to this side. So I think this is perfect. So what we'll go through and do is start placing more of our nutrient dense soil into our pockets, and then we'll do the capping soil next. So again, need the nutrient dense soil for your plants that have roots. creating smart places for stem plants, keeping your scape in terms of threes, so largest, medium, small, and really using up the amount of space in the tank. One thing that I've learned is I've always gone and tried to place most things in the back, but you want to take up some of this front space too. So smart planning and pulling things up as you start to make things more go towards the back. But let's go through and add some more nutrient dense soil. Now the smart thing to do is root tabs. So I've been using these 2-hour Aquarius APT-J root tabs. So that's what we're going to go through and place some of these as well. So they are enclosed. They are enclosed capsules. This is just going to add to the already existing nutrient dense layer. So I'll open these up and sprinkle it back here only. The other parts will have that nutrients soil here, which is enough. I just want to give it an extra boost in the back on top of what I already have. So I will need to glue some of these rocks, but what I want to do is get that substrate in, my capping layer. Well, I already got the base substrate. I just need to get my capping layer in. Then we'll kind of start working and gluing the rock down. We already got the wood half glued. I'm going to do a glue point here and a glue point over here as well. We're going to add some accent wood too. So some wood that seems as if it was part of it growing into this tank too. So there'll be some things being added as we kind of go through and do this. But enough about that. Let's go get our Bora sand. All right, so time to do the capping layer. I moved some stuff around over here. I just need to get the capping layer down so I can create some elevation. So let's talk about this. This is the extra fine Bora sand. It is like beach sand. It is super nice in an aquarium. So I already went through and washed it, but let's go through and start placing our capping soil. So again, why do you need a capping soil? You do not want this nutrients to release into the water column because you'll have an algae break. And also you want an aesthetic capping layer. Now, if this was a taller tank, if you're going for a higher tank, you could buy, and I've done this in the past, cheap capping layer so that you get that elevation. But I have enough with this, which is going to be my capping and my topsoil. So we'll do that all through here. I'm actually going to brush this out. All right, perfect. Now that that is done, we need to cap it. All right, so I will say, learning point, I should have washed the sand earlier. It's just harder. I don't want to like scrape the glass to get this all done. Kind of compacted here because I'll scratch a glass, which isn't good. So learning point for all of you, take your time, wash the sand early, let it dry, then place it in. But I wanted to get this video out because I'm super excited about this scape, so I couldn't wait. But yeah, so just learning point, make sure, let the sand dry. So it's a lot easier for you to scape. And cap this down. So what I'm doing over here, oh, sorry, you guys are tilted. It's just, I can't have it completely round. It just doesn't look natural. So I'm trying to figure out configuration for this kind of cove to keep that substrate high over there. I'm gonna have to glue this down, but just trying to figure out what type of layout kind of works here. I'm fine with this. Some people may not be. Be aware, I won't be able to clean the glass right here because this rock is right up against it, which I'm fine with. But some people may not be fine with that. Just so you're aware as I'm kind of scaping this out. You gotta think about, once you come close to the glass, can I clean this and scrape it? I'm fine with that. I'm gonna rotate it in a little bit more, like that. Remember, some people may not be, so I just wanna give you tips as I'm going through this. When you're doing placements, you have to think of those kind of things as well. So I need to elevate this back end because I want the scape to go higher. As you can see over here, it looks like the tank is deeper as the ridge line's going higher. So you just gotta, so it's not flat through in here. I'm gonna hire this area over here to add some height for the rock that's retaining this area so that it's going up into there. It adds depth into the tank. So as you're scaping, don't just keep it flat all the way through. You want to add depth so it looks farther than it is. This is looking amazing. I think I'm getting better at this depth thing. So again, higher as it goes back, seems like the tank is way deeper than it actually is. From here now, I'm gonna fill these areas with control sand. There's one little issue here. So let me lower you guys. See how you can see through this? I hate control sand that just gets into your tank. And, well, yeah, I mean, like, not control sand, like the bead substrate that I'm going to add, yeah, which is called control sand from UNS. But basically, it'll start to fall out, which bugs me all the time. So I need to add some rock right in here in the back to keep it from coming in this way. So I'll get through and do that now. And then what I'll also do is I'll pack that back area closest to the rock side with this sand. So that way when I fill it up, it doesn't go through into there. So let's go through and do that. All right, perfect. Remember, this is all about learning and having fun. So this has been scaped. This is lower than that side. That side's about that high in the back. So as you're going up, it's getting larger and it seems like it's further back. Same thing with this area. So just play with the depth of your tank as you're setting it up, making it just fun. This is all about having fun and creating your own little scape in Wonderland in your home. So I'm gonna go through and add some soil in here too. Again, just preventing anything from overflowing when I use this control soil. It's looking great. Now all I need to do is add that control soil. I think I'm covered in every area. There might be some issues back here. Oh, looks like I got it. Cool. So why do I add control soil or a nutrient dense bead soil? You call it like, you can call it like a mineral soil essentially. So this is what it looks like. If you've never purchased it, this is normal black from UNS control soil. There are great things with this in terms of helping water quality for Caridina shrimp. So that's what I'll be adding into here. So essentially being aware of what you're going to be putting in your aquarium. I'm going to be having Caridina shrimp in this one and nano fish, right? Let me move you guys up. And nano fish. So the reason why you do this actually creates a buffering pH and KH. So this makes it more acidic. You want something like this if you're going to have Caridina shrimp. You can get away with not having it, but it's also good just to have to plant in general. It does break down, but I like adding it in wherever I'm adding plants. Let's see the back and what it says. It says no rinsing required, which is true. One thing from UNS, that part is true for their soil. The other control sand that I use from the Bora sand wash. Optional for fish and shrimp, suitable for all fish. It says designed for planted aquariums, granular composition and size, provides optimal oxygen exchange for rich nutrients. So that's what I'm going to go through and add in the back areas. Now I need to go and rinse out my little scooper because there's a bunch of sand in it. And I guess I don't necessarily need to. No, we don't need to, because if you pour it in, it goes everywhere. So just be aware. And this actually isn't the black. I think this one is the, yeah, it says normal black. Maybe it's just dried out. For all of you that have never seen this, this is what it looks like. And the reason why I fill in the gaps is because this goes everywhere in the substrate if you don't. So just be aware. So let's go through and fill the backs up. All right, so I took a break, ate some pizza, came back, phone was still charging, so added some hardscape wood here, and here, and added a vertical one because back here I'm gonna have a peace lily, so it's gonna be growing out. I wanted to create a little cove for it to stay when planted in there. I went through and I forgot, by the way, remember I added the control sand back there. I forgot to cap down the nutrient dense soil, so you do still need it capped even if you have the control soil. So I took the control soil out, capped it with sand, then added control soil because it would have released into the water column. The control soil allows for aeration, so it would have pulled out into the water column. It would have had an algae bloom, so that's good. Well, not good with algae bloom. I need to figure out the outtake configuration. Maybe I put a plant back there to hide it, but there is the outtake, intake, yeah, intake into the filter. We'll need to figure out a spot to hide it, but this one has the outtake into the tank from the filter, does have a skimmer on it. I like it on the outtake versus intake because shrimp will get in it, so if they do go in here, they'll just spin back in the tank. But the layout's looking great. I'm super excited about this. Now the fun part. Hopefully you've enjoyed it up to this point. From the hardscape, going through and adding our nutrients, hardscape, capping layer. Now, last thing is to add plants. So I'll add my base plants. I like to add stem plants after. So we'll go through and add our epiphytes into some of these areas. Then we'll add our rooted plants after I fill it, especially our long stem ones. So I plan in these cove areas to do reds and in front of them greens. So we'll go through and do that. This area again will have a peace lily coming out the outside, which is going to look amazing here. And then you also have right here, I have a palm tree. I took it out while I was scaping. But let's go through. We'll talk about plants and the plants that I'm adding. So this is still considered a nano tank. It's a long 20-gallon nano tank. So we have to think of small plants that fit in this space that make it look big. So I'll talk about some of the plants that I chose specifically for this build. So you all know when you're doing a 20-gallon scape, what kind of plants you should choose and how they work in different areas, especially with lighting and all of those items from nutrients. So without further ado, let me go and clean my plants. I'll kind of show you where they're at. So I ordered them and put them in a holding tank. So this is just a spare tank. I guess you can't really see because of the glare. This is just a spare tank that I had. And then all of my epiphytes are in here. I have some tissue cultures. So we'll get them all added directly into here. I just need to clean tissue cultures out. We'll start with all of our base plants first, and then I'll add our stem plants, but let's get going. Alrighty, so excited. The time has arrived. Done scaping it. Let's move you down a little bit more so we get better depth of how this kind of looks. So this is the moment we've been waiting for. Now I have a bunch of tissue cultures that I went through and, oops, kind of messed that up, but cleaned out. One thing I do want to show you, actually I'll just angle you guys down. One thing I do want to show you is the broadleaf here is actually better amount from tissue cultures, kind of just showing you like an example of tissue cultures. But basically you can get something like this, which you purchase from, these are all from Boost Plants. Get a 3-pack, or you can get tissue cultures, which gives you more. They just aren't as lush growing out. So just being aware, you get more bang for your buck with tissue cultures. They just take time to grow as you're going through. So I'm gonna go through, we're not gonna name these here, but as I'm planting them, I'll do one by one in the genius that they are so that you know exactly what we're planting. All right, I'm so excited. Finally, this has been scaped. It's been such a long time coming, but we got our tissues cultures down. So we did all the tissue cultures. Now it's time to fill this. So what am I going to be filling it with? This is going to be RDI water with remineralized GH plus for Caridina shrimp. Yes, I'll be adding Caridina shrimp in here, so I need it more of a lower pH, so more acidic. That's why there's wood. That's why I also added the control soil too. So now what I need to do is fill this up. I'm gonna remineralize water with this. I already set up the filter. You would have already seen a filter setup video, which you can look up here, published before this, on how I set up the filter to get ready for this tank. But hopefully you've learned so much so far, but we still got to do our stem plants and then get this thing running. So let's go through and fill this up. I'm not going to do a filled video because this is probably already a long video, but that's what I'm filling it up with is RDI water that's remineralized with just GH plus. But enough about that. Let's get this thing filled up. All right, so we got it all filled up. It took a little while. There's about 15 and some change worth of water. Now I'm gonna run this tonight, but let's get some stem plants in. I don't have as many as I would like. I was pulling some from my other 20-gallon tank, but it didn't seem that well in terms of the bottom of them had a little bit of algae on it. I don't want to start this tank with some algae blooms, so we'll wait. We'll get some more in, but we'll go through and add some of the stem plants that I already pre-purchased as well. All right, so this is going to grow out, but we'll do a recap tomorrow so you can all see what it looks like the next day. Looks amazing so far. Definitely need some floating plants, so I'm going to add some floating plants in here as well. And then we'll let it run overnight and we'll check back in tomorrow. All righty, so it's the next day. The water is crystal clear, super excited about how this turned out. My new showpiece, and for you all, a step-by-step beginner guide of how to scape a scape for 20-gallon or even something larger if you're doing something bigger and you were just looking for a step-by-step guide on how I go through and set up my tanks from my experience. We went through and added, picked out your tank size, then we went through and added the substrate, so that nutrient-dense substrate. We capped it down. We then added our hardscape and then added some additional Bora sand, so our top layer. And then we went through and added the filter. So this is a canister filter. We have our lighting. I did order a new light, so we'll see what the Chihiros comes in and what that looks like for this tank as well. The background, the blue is way better than the black, so I'm super excited that this blue worked out. The color will be in the description as well as every other link. Plants I got from Boost Plants, not sponsored by everyone. This is just all my experience going through this hobby. Hopefully you enjoyed this beginner setup guide. And as well, step by step, if you're still in the hobby or you've been in the hobby and you're looking for some additional tips and helpful things, and if you've been in the hobby or you're new and you have any questions, feel free to comment. I'm very responsive. And if you have any suggestions for other folks, please go through and do that. As everything grows out, this tank cycles, I'll do an update video probably in about a month of the whole studio with this tank as well and kind of where we're at. Hopefully you'll enjoy all of that. But again, if you watched it this far, please take the moment to like and subscribe. It truly helps out the channel. And if you have any questions or want to see any future items or build or tip videos, please leave a comment. That's what I'm here for. But again, truly appreciate every single one of you tuning in. Hopefully you got some tidbits, some helpful tips, or some step-by-step guides. If you did, please comment. Let me know what helped. And again, until next time, I'll see you all on the next build video.